Welcome to the latest episode of Harlem Stories. I'm Robert Lazo,
I'm Adam Feinberg.
and in this episode, we're going to talk about film and TV locations in Harlem.
Yeah, this is kind of a fun topic because, I mean, obviously, you're watching TV, you're watching a movie, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I know that place. For those people that might be listening from out of town, the comments that I've often gotten is, that they didn't realize just how much filming was done uptown when I tell them. And I'm like, oh, well, this was shot here and this was shot here. And you know what? We're going to bring a little transparency. And obviously, we know we're not going to capture even a fraction of what was really actually shot here. But hey, we can give you kind of a starting point, an idea. And, hey, if we miss something that you think that we should be talking about, let us know. Give us a call, give us a text, send an email. We're easily findable. So, yeah, please, reach out to us and let us know.
And I want to point out one thing that's really important. Aside from our love of real estate, I think that both Adam and I have a love for film, television, and theater, but especially Adam loves movies.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
All right.
Okay, that's my horrible De Niro. But...
Pretty good. All right, we'll work on that. But I think you've got tremendous potential.
I don't know about that. I'm gonna probably stick to my day job. But in the meanwhile, we can talk about some awesome locations and films that have been shot up here. Some of them are just really cool. So, let's just start off with a series that's actually, still filming right now. I've only actually gotten a chance to see the first episode, Godfather of Harlem.
Wow. Okay. Tell me more.
So, I turn on the first episode, and within the first 2 to 3 minutes, they're shooting right down the block from me. And they're in Sugar Hill along St. Nicholas Avenue around 148, 147, heading south. And I'm like, obviously they're, with a title that says Godfather of Harlem, of course, they're going to be shooting in Harlem, Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights areas. And they still are. They still are filming episodes up here.
And any particular addresses or buildings you want to point out where they're shooting?
So they're filming at least in that particular shot. Like I said, I've only seen that first episode, and I'm sure there's so much more. And we actually know that one of the stars in the movie is actually looking to buy in the neighborhood. Makes sense, hey, if you're going to be filming up here, might as well enjoy it. But yeah, let's say they were driving along in that opening scene along Sugar Hill, and you're looking at some of the mansions that were over there. They did not capture the circus mansion of James Bailey, the James Bailey mansion. They were just south of that, but you see some wonderful buildings that have turrets, and they're absolutely great and interesting looking.
Okay. What's the next show?
So we're going to skip from TV to movie, and we're going to talk American Gangster. American Gangster obviously was actually related to Godfather of Harlem because they're both telling kind of the story of some of the the bad guys of Harlem and that drug dealing era of Frank Lucas and all that horrible stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s. But it's the same kind of storyline, same sort of characters, obviously different actors, different. One's a movie, one's a TV show. But just as an example, in American Gangster, also in the opening scenes, the first few minutes, they were shooting at 135th and Broadway, which is now a pediatric center. In the movie, they actually made it as an appliance selling shop, and they're looking at TVs and that's when one of the characters has a heart attack in the episode. That building was originally actually a movie theater. And there is actual film capture from the turn of the century, and it was shot by Edison. There was actual film clips of that location.
That's amazing. And of course, I'm just thinking back at those days that people would go to a store that had TVs, and you go pick up a TV and buy one.
Yeah, very, very different time.
All right. Okay, so what do you got up next?
So Law and Order SVU, or any Law and Order for that matter, they're always filming up here. Always, always, always. So I think the couple things that are worth you're really kind of pointing out very specifically, and let's actually just capture a few different shows in all this. It's not just the Law and Order series. I know Blue Bloods captures some scenes in the same areas. The Blacklist as well. So you'll see like in a couple core areas. So number one is what we can call in a section of Manhattanville, right by the new Columbia campus expansion. Some people have called it Viaduct Valley because you are in the space right underneath the highway viaducts, and that is very, very common for shooting all sorts of TV and movies over there. So you'll see a lot of those scenes shot everywhere from that, and it's not very heavily trafficked now. Columbia, that is actually building up on that area, maybe it's going to start getting much more heavier traffic, more I think from a pedestrian standpoint than a vehicular aspect. But it's great for filming because it's architecturally rich, and it's not a lot of people or cars in that area too, making it very, very easy to kind of shut down that area for filming.
And if you go there just to visit, we should probably point out that you're very close to West Harlem Pier.
Yeah, West Harlem Pier and the Hudson River over there. You're right by the 125th Street station for the 1 train, which is actually what's part of forming that viaduct. And being under the train tracks there. It's one of the few places in Manhattan that's elevated tracks.
So great. So yeah, that's iconic. I guess we can say that in terms of just understanding what it's like to be under these trusses or under the bridge.
Yeah, and then the other place that these crime shows tend to film is the City College campus and it's kind of on the Manhattanville Hamilton Heights border. So many of these TV movies, tend to use the campus. Absolutely stunning, beautiful. Architect was the same architect that designed for City College was the same one that designed the New York Stock Exchange building. And it's been called by a film scout by Hogwarts in Manhattan because there's over 1,000 gargoyles and grotesques on the campus buildings. So absolutely stunningly beautiful. Now, what's interesting about it when it turns to the actual film and TV aspects of it, it gets renamed, and it is the fictional Hudson University. I think there's like 30 or 40 different things that have filmed as Hudson University.
Very good.
So, let's move on since we've gone some of the whole crimes type of stuff. Motherless Brooklyn was filmed in Hamilton Heights in the Sugar Hill neighborhood, and it was shot in a pub that was known as St. Nick's Pub, and it had been renamed a few times. And quite honestly, it was owned back in the 1940s by Lucky Roberts. Now, if you know old-time music, you will probably know who Lucky Roberts is. And the bar was actually named as Lucky, Lucky's or something along those lines. But you probably know his name because he was Duke Ellington and George Gershwin's teacher.
Wow. Okay, so where is this bar so we can find it?
So, well, unfortunately, we can no longer find it. So I'm glad that you brought that up because, unfortunately, when they were filming Motherless Brooklyn, and we still don't know exactly what happened. We just know that a boiler caught on fire. A firefighter died at the site, and unfortunately, the entire building burned down.
That's too bad. Oh my gosh. Okay.
So tragic, but the location of that is 148th and St. Nicholas. Right now, it is a vacant lot at the moment, but that was during the filming of Motherless Brooklyn.
Okay, and hopefully they'll build something there that'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, it's roughly the width of a wider townhouse, so it probably would be either another townhouse or a very small, 3 to 6 unit condo building type of thing.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's move on. Similar kind of neighborhood, not far away, Royal Tenenbaums. Royal Tenenbaums was shot at 339 Convent, and I think we actually even had an episode where we discussed 339 Convent. So what they did is when they created that movie, they basically created the house as almost a character in the movie. So that's in Sugar Hill at the intersection of 144th and Convent Avenue. And, since we do have a whole separate episode, I don't want to talk too much about it, but they also filmed the cemetery scene in the Trinity Church Cemetery uptown, which is also in Hamilton Heights and only about 10 blocks north or so of where the house was filmed. So they got multiple shots there. It's one of the few cemeteries. It's one of the rare cemeteries in Manhattan that remains, and it's got Hudson River views. So, wherever you choose to forever rest, you can have Hudson River views.
So I'd like to point out something. If you are interested in kind of seeing what Adam and I are discussing, remember to visit our website, which is harlemstories.dev, D-E-V, and that'll bring you right to the podcast site. And if you pick this particular episode, we will put in the show notes links to some of the various locations.
Awesome. So I know we want to try and keep these episodes short, so I'm not going to mention like everything that I have on our list. I'm going to pick another like 2 or 3 other things. New Jack City actually used the building Graham Court on 116th Street at Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard, and that was really the center of the movie. If you're not aware of Graham Court, it's basically the predecessor and built by the Astor family, but it's the predecessor to the Apthorpe Building at 79th and 79th and Broadway. So it's got that awesome same kind of courtyard that you would expect over there. They also filmed in St. Nicholas Park, the basketball courts, and Grant's Tomb in Morningside. So that is some of the cool aspects over there. One thing that I would be remiss if I didn't discuss, and while there's so many more movies and TV shows, one of the, I guess, iconic locations over here, it was actually never used in the show, but it was based off of this location, Tom's Diner in Seinfeld. So basically, if you know the real location, the TV show was based off of this, but it's a Columbia University staple location. Tom's Diner is at 112th Street and Broadway, and that's the diner where the Seinfeld characters would always choose to eat.
That's great.
Yeah, and Tom's Diner, it was iconic, and they even have like the icons of the TV show out there. One thing that's also worth mentioning about Tom's Diner, it was also the location for Suzanne Vega's hit song Tom's Diner. So interesting that all these are some of the cool things that we encounter uptown, and sometimes it's there's filming and you don't even know about it. In fact, there was an episode of Millionaire Matchmaker, and I didn't know that they were filming in front of my building, and I peeked out the window to see what the weather was like, and I'm on the first floor. I have no idea that they're filming, and they're like, cut! not realizing that I'm in the shot and I'm destroying the entire shot.
Yeah, but you just live there, right?
Yeah, we just live there. So that's part of being a New Yorker. It's some of that cool stuff. I know HBO filmed one of their series also in front of my building. So it's one of those things as a New Yorker you come to experience. And I know a lot of people do get irritated sometimes with all the filming, but it's really, I think, one of the keys that helps keep New York so unique.
Absolutely. New Yorkers are always part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they're not part of the story, they're part of the story, because one way or the other, we're integrated in it. The Law and Order episodes are ripped from the headlines, and they're usually about some sort of New York story. So, there's always something going on, in these neighborhoods. There's always some sort of filming. And it's always an iconic part of our streets and our skyline.
Well, great. Well, thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for the next episode of Harlem Stories.
Awesome. Thank you very much.